Good evening. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Castle County Board of Commissioners. I'd like to start this meeting off with a moment of silent prayer. Amen. I'd like to move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Move on to public comments. First up is Lynn.
Not going to read it all, so you can follow. My name is Elaine Claggett. I reside at 108 Gay Lane. I'd like this recorded verbatim, please. Today, I'll simply highlight answers to commissioners' questions from last board meeting. Due to time limits, you may follow along with your handouts, which also provide additional detailed documents. The first topic is North Carolina DOT. The commissioner question was, does DOT district engineer still update VOCM plans for the upcoming year? The answer on December 21st, 2020, Mr. Archer, NCDOT's Division 7 engineer, last addressed the board. Mr. Robinson, project engineer, emailed me on 7/28, stated that the schedule for the different phases of path and lane and shoulder improvements on Highway 86 from US 158 to the Virginia State limit will be solidified in the next few months. Progress of audits. Are the CPA firm, finance and audits, how are they? The answer is CPA Isley turned data over to the auditor several weeks ago, but additional documentation is required. This is for the 21 audit. As of 7/21/23, Ms. Edmondson from the North Carolina Treasurer has been updated on the county progress. Only Castle has not filed the 21 audit. 92 counties have filed fiscal year 22, and the fiscal year 23 audit is due in October. There's been no public discussion on a contract for a new auditor. At 3 o'clock today, Mr. Miller said that there was no contract date. Given that there's no expenditures from 21, 22, or 23 budgets available publicly during the recent budget discussions, it's unclear how 2 years of audits can be completed concurrently by the to summarize, over 2 years and $250,000 for Hill County. The cost of the audit, how much of the audit Castle County? And the original contract was for the auditors for $54,750. The $44,628 for extended services as the retired finance director. $30,000 for Isley's CPA's initial contract as consultant, and now it's extended by $40,000. Fiscal year 23 contractual services and in 24 listed as $85,000. So the minimum cost today was $254,000 that I calculated, and that was confirmed by the manager again at 3 o'clock today. Cost right now continues to increase with the invoices from the auditor, but the cost that he has is $270,000. He says it's offset by salaries, but the cost is $270,000. Land use regulations and billboards. As the county, the AMC bill said the casino can't have billboards inside town. The answer, billboards in Yanceyville are not limited to advertising only town businesses. The town's ordinance reviewed on June 2023 does not restrict content of advertising, but does specify size, distance for placement, and structure of signage. This was verified by the town's manager as well as the town council. There are currently billboard advertisements for businesses in Danville, Martinsville, within Yanceyville's town. Payments to the board and commissioners and commissions. If we start paying boards a stipend, what will the cost of implementing today? Currently, 22 boards are listed on the county's website. 7 rarely meet a multi-district or funded by the state. 5 are directly paid and pay their member a sum of $18,808 for 3 volunteers, as approved in their 2024 budget. The remaining 10 boards are unpaid. Stipend of $20 per member per meeting equals $11,280. For the additional 73 community volunteers. That's the cost of implementing today, not $50,000 stated. Since FOIA request to finance was sent 3 weeks ago asking this question but remained unanswered, I went ahead and contacted 17 departments and with board members directly, and there's a chart I've attached that gives the information I found. That includes the ex officio members and commissioners paid. Economic development position. Last Friday, I read on social media that Mr. Tony Smith is hired to fill his position. I'd like to congratulate. I stood with him at the polls. I also applied May 18th. My resume includes a doctorate in public administration, a certificate in economics, administrative experience, grant writing, and an instructor in community assessments in Hampton Roads, which has 1.5 million population. Since moving to Tazewell, I worked 9 years at CFMC, was hired as interim health director for the county, served on the Veterans Memorial. Although well qualified, I was never afforded the opportunity for anything. Perhaps it's age or gender discrimination. Perhaps it's a personal bias, or simply a failure of standard operating procedure for hiring practices, which contributes to unfilled vacancies in multiple departments. Is this fair, honest, and open government? Commissioner, this statement only addresses a few examples of disinformation from one single meeting. The pattern is not new. This was your personal business. What would you change? Thanks for listening. If you would like more documentation, I'll be glad to read it.
Next up, we have John Clay.
I'm going to pass, Mr. Chairman.
Sir. Move on to recognitions. Any recognitions to be brought out by the board member?
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Holt. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
To approval of the agenda. There is one addition to the agenda that's not listed. It'll be item 14. It is county manager's contract.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also read the agenda to take in the Culver Lake Board request,
What item number would you like to see that at?
wherever you like to start.
However that loads.
Probably should have done 14.
Okay, that will take. Okay, with those said, have approved the agenda by consensus vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Move on to approval of the consent agenda. Motion have a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion items. Board of Education joint meeting dates. Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, as you're aware, you were provided with an email requesting that a carryover for rescheduling for the Board of Education dates. I think you have 3 options. One's to reschedule to a future date. One's to reschedule to a date that coincides with the Board of Commissioners meeting. Based on the current schedule, this could occur no earlier than September 4th, but maybe as late as September 18th. Your third option is to cancel the meeting until the second fiscal quarter for the Board of Commissioners to allow the Board of Education to settle into the first month or so. So we're happy to take any dates that you'd like to reschedule the meeting to, or to request a cancellation of the meeting altogether.
Could we have, Sterling, could we have a, John visit and have, educate the voter, at the same time?
Yes, sir.
And that's just a suggestion.
Couldn't hear you, teacher.
I said, we could maybe have a short agenda, or have a regular meeting, we have voter education, we can say, I mean, just a suggestion, like that.
How's that, suit the other board member?
September the 4th, Mr. Bill, is the earliest it could be.
Yes. That's Labor Day, so it would be when
Either of those dates fine with me for 5th or the 18th. Either one of the September meetings, what you're saying.
that's correct.
I mean, we meet with them on the 18th.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, likewise. Motion carries. Next up, meeting with Congresswoman Valerie, she, Brian Miller.
Commissioners, you've had a request to, from Congresswoman Valerie Foushee to meet with, board members or a few board members on Wednesday, August 16th from 10 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. that day. So I would suggest that maybe 2 or 3 members of the board volunteer, or the board appoint 2 or 3 members to meet with the Congresswoman at that time and that day.
Morning or afternoon?
From 10 a.m. to 10:45.
I'm a little confused. I usually am. She's in Congress, she's not in the legislature, is that right?
Well, we were sent an email by Mariah Merrick and requesting the meeting to meet on Wednesday, August 16th from 10 a.m. to 10:45.
I was thinking that we were in Kathy Manning's district,
Well,
Congresswoman Kathy Manning.
she is the new representative of Casper County. She is a U.S. representative for North Carolina's 4th congressional district.
Pleasure of the board. We have any volunteers?
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
The 16th, there's something going on at PCC. Tour. I saw the email that came, I got an email about it. Tuesday, this is from 10 to 10.
From 10 to 10:45.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem.
We have 3. Yeah. We have 3 volunteers. Moving on, NCACC virtual caucus, Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, the NCACC is holding a virtual caucus. They need a representative, I believe on the 14th, to serve as a representative of Caswell's board. One of these, it'll be at 10 o'clock a.m. Today.
I would not be to read the 16 factors when I signed it.
And this meeting specifically is to appoint or to elect the district director. Mm,
Where are we? What is the pleasure for?
What time did you say? it was?
10 o'clock.
How long you got now, then how long got to meet virtual caucus for life,
It's for one purpose,
just so that.
and that one purpose is to elect the district director. Honestly, if you follow the pattern of district directors, it does follow a pattern that it's from. It follows Randolph, Davidson, Rockingham, Alamance, Caswell, Guilford, and it starts over. Randolph, Rockingham, Alamance, Caswell, Guilford. And it pretty much does that all the way down, with the exception of the last couple of years. The last couple of years, Guilford, no, Alamance served 2 terms in a row. And then Guilford served 2 terms in a row. Then it started back off with Randolph. So just judging from history, the next deputy or next director should come from Davidson. So it's almost like it's a pattern. They just need somebody there.
That were. I know it's virtual, but can you do it from home? Do you have to come here?
No, you can do it from home or courthouse or here or Coast Square, anywhere you like.
They just needed one. Yeah, right.
Yes.
One.
I'll take care of that. That being said, on to the next item up on the agenda, family services policy review. Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, in your agenda packet, there were a series of family services policies. These policies need to be reviewed by the Board of Commissioners. They are for the continuing operations of family services. They're required by the grants. They are the same policies that we've had for many years, or several years, right? So there have been no changes other than the dates the policies were reviewed.
We need some motion to respect.
It would be nice, yeah. I think realistically, we just need to make sure the policies have been reviewed by the board. But if the board would approve those, we would certainly appreciate that.
Any other discussion? Make a motion to approve the family policies review.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, likewise. Motion carries. Next up, we have Castle County Personnel Policy Adjustment.
Commissioners, in your agenda packet, there was an amendment to the Castle County personnel policy. The personnel policy is reviewed by the board and approved by the board. You can see in red, we have included. It is recommended no fewer than 3 people attend meetings which require spaces to be secured with doors closed. This is instituted for employee safety, accountability of all participants, and to reduce liability for county government. Caswell County does recognize this may not always be possible, necessary, or permissible in all cases. Certain functions involving finance, payroll, HIPAA, disciplinary discussion, and other instances may warrant a deviation from this recommendation. Therefore, if at any time an employee feels it in their best interest, they may request an additional person to attend such meeting. We would simply ask that the board approve that policy amendment.
Any other discussion?
Move it, approve.
Second. The motion and second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Likewise. Opposed, motion carries. Next up is the fiscal year 24 rural state operating transportation grant. Melissa Williams.
Commissioners, Ms. Williams is not with us today, so I'll fill that one as well. This is a rural state operating transportation grant in the amount of $114,523. There is no required match for this grant. This is the first time this grant has been offered through NCDOT and PTD. This grant will cover motor fuel, tires, oil changes, and help CATs out with their operation. Once again, it's $114,523, and there's no required match.
What are the requirements are?
There are no, the only clawback requirements would be if the money went unspent, i.e. we didn't need it, we weren't able to spend it, that we would need to repay that money back. But if we need it, we spend it. If we don't need it,
We'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. All those opposed, likewise, motion carries. Next up is board and committee dissolution recommendation. Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, you asked me to provide you with a list of boards and committees that, in my opinion, could be dissolved. The first committee that I recommend is the Castle County Cemetery Board of Trustees. This was created several, and I say several, 4 or 5 years ago, and has really never gotten off the ground. I'm not aware of any meetings that have taken place with it. And they've never been to the board to make any type of recommendation. So I would recommend that you dissolve the Cemeteries Board of Trustees. Do you want to take these one by one, or would you like me?
Are they pretty cut and dry as to
All of them, in my opinion, all of them. I think the one that you may want to think about is the hunting and wildlife advisory. It became very clear to me in speaking to the chairman of the Hunting and Wildlife Advisory Committee that they were not provided with guidance when the board transition to another. They're really not sure. That they thought that their only charge was to deal with issues when they came up in that. When the truth is, Rockingham County has a great hunting and wildlife advisory. They put on events for kids, get kids interested in hunting and wildlife and so on and so forth. After speaking with Mr. Harris, I recommended to him that, and I told him my recommendation to the board would be to hold off on this, dissolving this committee for a while. That, in my opinion, it would be a good idea for him, as well as a couple of other of his members, to attend a couple of meetings at Rockingham and see the kind of things that we're doing in the wildlife advisory. Board come back and talk with the board of commissioners about it and see if that was the kind of thing that the board wanted to pursue.
so do you need to have motion and a second on each one of these committees as you go forward, and you just need a consensus of the board to do well.
I really do need a motion. The board created the committees. I want to go into,
All right, well, first up is the secretary committee. Have any thoughts on that?
I'll make a motion. This is not that good.
A motion and a second, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries to keep that one, Mr. Middleton.
okay. So the hunting, we spoke about the hunting and wildlife advisory committee.
Motion and second in discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
So the next committee we have is the Gun Memorial Library Advisory Board. And the Gun Memorial Library Advisory Board does a good job. And they meet fairly regularly. The reason that I would advise the board to dissolve this committee is because we have two different boards. We have the Friends of the Library and the Library Advisory. Made up of the exact same people except for one person. They meet two different times. So it would be my recommendation to move the powers and duties of the Library Advisory Board onto the Friends of the Library, let them have one meeting and move forward with that. With them serving both roles. Only difference, and this is the biggest difference between the two boards. One, the Library Advisory Board meets at 5 o'clock in the evening. The Friends of the Library meets at 11 o'clock during the day. So the Library Advisory Board would allow people that worked a little later in the day to be able to attend the Library Advisory. But other than the one person, it's the exact same.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion?
Both of them sanctioned by us, or is one of them just
No, one of them is a 501c3 that helps with donations, holds fundraisers, and that's the Friends of the Library. The board authorized to, and they're not really authorized to ask, they just give you advice. That board is sanctioned by.
either one sanctioned, but you also want fundraising.
Well, I think what I'm saying is sanction one is doing fundraising, transfer those powers and duties onto the 501c3. And they can give advice and recommendations to the commissioners, just like they do to library staff.
That sounds logical myself. I make a motion that we consolidate the two boards. Second. Motion and a second. No further discussion. Call for a vote on it. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Those opposed likewise. Motion carries.
The Recreation Commission is the exact same thing as the Library Advisory Board with one big exception. And that's the Recreation Commission hasn't met in many, many years. Pre-COVID. It's never been a board that made recommendations to the Board of Commissioners on a regular basis on a regular basis at all. We do have a group the Recreational Development Foundation, which is very active in the county. And they kind of serve as Friends of the Library do in the same capacity for Parks and Rec. So I would make the same recommendation as on Chief Library.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to dissolve the.
Motion, I'll second the motion. All those in favor of dissolving the board, say aye. All those opposed, likewise, motion carries.
Um,
Well, I think we have more.
Yeah, we have one more, the Cultural and Heritage Preservation Committee. So that committee it's an interesting committee. It was formed because the Board of Commissioners took up an item. Someone wanted to place an object of remembrance on county properties. The board was split on whether they wanted to do it or whether they didn't. So the board didn't really want to move it. They moved to create the Heritage and Cultural Preservation Committee, which meets as needed. I'm not sure of any meeting that they've had in quite some time, because it wasn't needed. But regardless of the number of meetings they've had or when they meet, what I'll say is they're only going to make the recommendation to the board. Ultimately, it's up to the Board of Commissioners, one way or the other, to approve or disapprove of any artwork or any monument that the county receives. So it's almost a redundant process. So my recommendation would be to dissolve that committee. The Board of Commissioners has to deal with it anyway. That's the reason that I would recommend dissolving that.
Chairman, make a motion to dissolve it.
Second. We have a motion and a second to dissolve. All those in favor of this solution, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, likewise, motion carries.
Yes, sir.
Next up, on the Lake Board,
Yes, sir. Members of the former Lake Board would like to have an alternate appointed, Mr. Steve Eaton. And we need to vote on this if we can. And Mr. Eaton has worked with the board before and done an outstanding job with them. And sometimes if we have health issues and so forth, it can't be there, then we could have an alternate. I'd like to make a motion to put Mr. Eaton on board.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. All those opposed, likewise, motion carries. Next up is county manager's contract. At the end of the last meeting, a motion was made to buy out Mr. Miller's contract. And there was a lot of confusion over what was going on. I got phone calls. I am going to bring that back up tonight so that we can deal with this issue. And I make a motion that we buy out the county manager's contract.
I said,
Is there a discussion?
Question for you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Bob Brown explained to me and the rest of the board what you are referring to as buying out his contract.
In the contract, it's entitled to certain financial compensation if employment is terminated with the county. I think it's several months of pay plus even through time, vacation, comp time, all that. So
That sounds more like you want to fire the county manager rather than buying out the contract.
How do you want to work?
I wanted an explanation as to what the motion was.
His employment will be terminated and his contract will be paid out according to the terms that he is.
Severance package, more or less.
Yes, sir.
State contract.
Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'm gonna call for a vote. We'll do this by individual vote. The motion and a second on the floor to terminate county manager's contract, pay it out. Tell you what, I'm gonna lead off the voting. I vote to terminate the contract, buy it out. Next up, Commissioner Holden,
Go to the terminate.
Commissioner McGood. No. Commissioner Jeffries. Commissioner Yarborough. No. Commissioner Rhodes. No. And Commissioner. Motion carries. 4-3.
Thank you, Commissioners. It's been on.
Then I'd like to make a motion that we let Coach. It's been carry on for right now for, till we find it complete.
He is qualified. I have spoken to Mr. Smith and he has agreed to do that if we so choose to, move in that direction of the board. You making the motion, I'll give you a second on that motion.
I'll make it.
I second the motion.
Just
He is new economic development coordinator. He said that he would do this until we can find a permanent, replacement for the county manager.
sure, I think. Opinion. I think we need to look at, having Ms. Williamson acting temporary until we make a decision. Placement. Due to the fact that she is an employee, she would can do a lot of this stuff for me. She put the hands on it.
We have a motion and a second on the floor, involving Mr. Smith. And as such, we'll vote on that motion with no further discussion. All right. Go down the same roll. I vote yes on it. Mr. Holden.
Yes.
Mr. McGood. No. Mr. Jeffries.
I don't know.
He is the one. She would be working with this. She would be working with Mr. Smith. He would be overseeing. That's a yes. Mr. Yarborough.
What was it that you said, I wasn't sure. That she worked with?
Deputy, with county manager. I don't want to cut her off.
We're not trying to, she'll be working with Mr. Smith. Mr. Rose? No. And it's back to you.
I say yes, but I agree with Jeremiah that Ms. Williamson.
Yes, yes, ma'am. That is the way it's in. Well, motion carries for Mr. Smith to be the interim county manager. I voted 4-3. Commissioner comments. County manager updates. And also we'll go to commissioner comments.
Well, my comment is here, that's been around, I've been in management for a long time. We don't terminate it, they all leave. Well, if we got to his office, it cleans. And it's peculiar.
That's,
I mean, that's.
that's why I asked you to stop.
Been ever since I've been there.
I think that'll be handled right now.
Carl, is there a way to get in touch with the IT department? Block access.
Jason.
That would be advised.
That's my opinion, this way.
You're spot on, you've got a valid point. We'll try to take care of that. Announcements, August 17th, 2023, 6 p.m. Joint town meeting with Bill Town Hall inside of the Thomas Day Museum. August 19th, 2023, Kids Day at Farmer Lake, 8:30 a.m. to 12 noon. August 21st, 2023, Commissioners Meeting at 6:30 p.m. at Historic Courthouse. August 24th through 26th, 2023, ACC Annual Conference. And next up, we have a closed session to consider qualification, competence, format, character, difference, format, and officer, employee, respective officer or employee, NCGS 143-1186. Gentlemen, is that necessary to have that?
I think the evaluation that we were supposed to do on the.
All right, well, let's just ask that. If there is no further discussion on any of this, that's
Think Let's be in this situation. If we could ask Ms. Paula to try to help us right now. Get the keys and the computers and all that, and try to get this up.
Jason, so that's all we found.
So we may need your services to help us get through this.
Certainly, I wasn't prepared to discuss this tonight, but it also may be a good idea for all the sheriff's department. It's just a. But it's within the chairman's discretion, but that would be my.
yes. You stick around for me, yes, sir. Okay, with all that being said, if there's no more further comments, thank you.
The grandson be 13, and I don't want to bring him down on the lake. 13 fish, what age do you come? She's 13, she's 13. Right, they want to fish. I get concerned about
Yes, sir, sounds good. Are there any more comments or questions? I give a second. All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. All those opposed,